best games of the 2021 Antichess World Championships so far. And I have a couple of special guests with me. I have Polo and I have cFlour. So welcome, guys.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
All right, so let's get straight to it. So we have 6 games so far. We've played 4 rounds of the tournament, and we got 6 of them. And I think Sarang, you wanted to go first with your analysis.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna look at game 3 first. So take us through it.
So this is, I think, around 1 game between RealNP and FM Arimakat. So the RealNP played e3 and Arimakat went b6 with the Liarded defense, and here a4 is just the Watkins theory. So a4, e6, and rook a3 was played to give the rook away. So bishop captures, knight captures, and Arimakat played b5. So I think it's bishop captures, yeah. So because if the pawn captures, then it's this square. Then if pawn captures, bishop goes, knight captures, and b4, and then this square is double protected by the queen and the knight. So bishop captures, and Arimakat went qe7, queen e7 to double up the pawns on this file. So bishop has to capture. There is no, and queen captures, and the pawns are now doubled up on this file. So, and here king recaptures, and a5 was played to get rid of that battery, and then king c6, trying to not take out the bishop, and I think queen f3, yeah, queen f3, threatening the king. So Arimakat played king d7, keeping the king safe, and now queen takes f7, because if queen takes the rook, then it would be a win for black. So queen takes f7, and knight e7 was played. So queen takes g7, forcing black to advance the pawn. But I think black played rook f8 here, and queen takes e7, king takes, and c4 was played. So after this series of captures, now white has a better position than black, because white has lots of control over this part of the board, and black's all major pieces are stuck in one corner here. So a6, trying to prevent the pawn from advancing, knight e2, just developing the knight, king d7, bringing the king to that square, trying to force the pawn to take all pieces there. Then knight c3, king c6, trying to stop the knight from going there. c5, king captures, knight goes to b5. Now king captures, or because if pawn captures, then it was just losing for black. And now h4 is played, because if the pawn advances, then the white can't force the king to capture the bishop. So h4, then a4, bishop a3. So now we have h5. Now once the pawn goes, so g pawn can advance and force black to capture. So king a2, trying to get rid of the rook, and rook a1, getting rid of the rook, and g4, trying to force black to capture the pawn. So a5. So these are just a series of pawn moves, and king e3, trying to bring the king into the game. And yeah, so here king was taken, so that white can force black to give up all the major pieces on the back rank there. So here, so white has to take pawn, and I think a2 was played, trying to promote to a rook. And here d4, and rook promotion, and now it's just a series of shuffles. King goes, king captures, rook f1, trying to get rid of the rook, and I think king f6 was played. So not removing the pawn of this file, and rook c1 back, trying to give it up here. d7 was played, and rook ac8, captures, king e7, and I think here is where white lost by time. But I think this position was slightly better for white. So if white had played, white could have won this game.
So
So-
actually, Polo, this is your game. So what were you kind of thinking at the ending here? What were your thoughts?
I mean, it was a very tough game against a very tough player, of course. And I think I was just, like so focused at just like because the position, as Sarang said, is better for white, but it's harder to play. It's harder to play for white as well because black just has a rook and doesn't have like that many options, so he knows what he's doing and he doesn't need like many time to think, which is not the case for white because like there are only like one or two okay moves, but yet there are like 10 moves possible and 8 of them are blunders. So I just was so focused on not blundering because that's what I tend to do a lot of time in end games, that I just like lost track of the time. And I mean, as you can see, I think probably from like move 20 or 30 on, there are just like so many so little time on the clock for both of us, and I just like choked on the time pressure.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was pretty good effort against a two-time world champ. All right, the next game.
Yeah, it was a good effort, and yet if
Yeah,
you check the game, I actually missed a win somewhere when I had him like cornered with all his pieces, and missed an opportunity. But it was probably the most interesting game of the series we played.
Yeah, nice work regardless.
now
Nice one.
the second game. Okay, so this was one of the games between me and C-Scan. I think round 3. Yeah, I won the series 6-2. So I played c5 and played b4, which I expected. So pawn captures and bishop a3 knight, and I just tried to do a symmetry. So g3 was played, and I played g5 because if I played g6, it would have been a slightly better for white here. So g5 was played, and he played queen c7, trying to force a capture there. So I just played queen a5, trying to make rid of the knight, and he captured. I captured. So he captured the rook, which I did not expect. So I think this is like one for black. Yeah, it's mate in 11. So I
You think
captured the
you
pawn.
think this is already one for black? It's pretty hard
Yeah.
to see, isn't it? Or you know the theory on this?
I don't know. I just keep racing.
just instinctual queen racing. Okay, nice.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously rook can't capture because then there are 3 pieces lined up. So queen has to capture, and now I captured here, trying to capture king, and I think that the capturing the bishop was a mistake because that uses the mate in 11 advantage. So I don't know. So I capture, and then I think rook takes d7 gives back the mate, and it's like mating 12 now. So I captured the rook. Queen has to capture on f8, and I captured the pawn. So I think we played queen takes e7, and I captured it because now white is out of good news. So knight f3,
Rook-
and now
rook- yeah.
here is a really cool intermediate that I take on e2, knight captures, then I take on h6, it's h2, knight captures, and I take with king, and it's just an easy win. So that was my second game.
Very good. Nice little intermediate at the end there. I'm sure Firebat would approve of that one, huh?
I'm sure he would.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Sarang.
Okay.
I'll go through the couple I've selected. So The first one, I think it was just from round one. This was Luca versus yourself, and it's actually interesting. If you look at those games on the left, you'll notice that for some crazy reason, we've all selected games where black's won. So black actually has 6-0 against white here. So if anyone's going to tell you, oh, anti-chess is a waste of time because white's always winning with e3, well, no, of course not. Even at the world champs, you get black winning many, many games. So let's go through this one. And this is a bit different because yourself usually plays b6, so he's deviating a little bit. And he plays this very out of book line with 2a5, which, I mean, I think it's one of those games that says black's lost, but it's very hard to know the theory for. So it's really just unsettling his opponent, which is always good in a long match. So this continues. Now here, I think white has a pretty nice move that was missed, and that was this queen g4 move. So if we see black must take the rook, and now queen takes pawn, this is actually looking pretty nice for white, but obviously pretty difficult to see. So instead, it was knight a3 that was played. We get the exchange up here. So just being careful here. c4 is an interesting idea. It's trying to unload that knight from that square, but there is a couple of things to say about this. So after rook takes, queen takes, and this is the move played here was bishop a6, which is it's perfectly safe. It's just drawing the rook down to swap off. But after some analysis, it's actually interesting. This pawn here becomes a real liability after this move, knight h6. So now this is forced, and after bishop takes, this is just unavoidable to open up. And even if we have moves like pawn here, we have knight takes to stop it, and this bishop will kind of get here. Or if not, it will sack up here, and then the queen can come here, and this rook will sort of open up down here eventually. So that was pretty interesting analysis, but maybe for future times. Bishop a6 was played, and we have this sort of open up. Right. Okay, so now e6, and I think we can kind of see yourself's skills in positional play. I think he is one of the few really good positional players in anti-chess. He might be tactically weak sometimes against really strong players, but I think his understanding is great. So just having the foresight to say, yeah, I'm going to let my bishop out here and it's safe, and then the next move too. Nice little space gain across here, which becomes very important for the next move. So white blunders here, doesn't see this little follow-up of bishop, rook, king. However, black still has to be a little bit careful here. It's not the most clear-cut win. So if, you know, for example, they play the wrong move like f5, this would be a problem. So black can't play this. And yeah, black actually finds this really cool intermediate move, very stylish, knight f6. So it finishes off the game in style. And knight h3 to finish. So pretty stylish ending from yourself, and just a good game. Generally,
would prove as well.
Yeah, I know exactly. I think these are just made for Firebat. So hi Firebat, I know you'll be watching. Yeah, it's just it's pretty cool to see that from the pretty dodgy opening. Yeah, so that's a pretty good result.
Yeah, and you can see like in this kind of games, like the difference between a 2200 player and a 2000 players, because all the moves are just, very accurate and very precise. And, like as myself, more of 2000 players, I thought like the c4 pawn there was for white at some point was very strong because, it was pressuring the knight and everything, but was actually very weak. And yourself was able to see this and trick trick him into conceding a winning endgame for black. So very interesting game.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. All right. So next game, and this is a bit different because I thought instead of showing a game that's all 22, 2300s, which we might expect, I found this very interesting game, a couple of 1700 players, and there's still some interesting things to say about it. Like there's probably a lot less opening theory, there's a lot less skill, but yeah, there was one moment in this game I think is really worth showing. So it's a c4 game. Open with c4 c6. Don't know about that move so much, giving up the queen. I think Kex would have a heart attack seeing that, but does double the pawns. Now, this is always one of those risky moves coming out to h3 that, again, like it's ripe for intermediates unless you're careful. But let's see what happens. Takes, and I was watching this game and I immediately thought, oh, you've got to play queen here, right? Just looks really good without even calculating anything. And if you just sort of play a few moves, you're going to get this sort of position, just setting things up. So it looks really good. Maybe it's not dead one, but I thought it was pretty cool. But the analysis, the computer found a very good move, e7. So after takes, queen's going to take here next move, and this bishop is coming out to take everything. There's no way to stop it. So yeah, I thought that was maybe a good trick to know, just to be aware that if you're having this set up, this bishop has potential to be dangerous. But that move was missed, and he actually played queen a5. So takes the king, good positional idea. And again, another bit of a risky move here. After this, it looks like black can kind of set things up to take. Now, again, my suggested move here when I was watching, I thought e5 was good after captures, and then sort of you can set up king here, pawn here, but let your bishop come out. And what was played was probably the more natural move of king b8. But maybe the path isn't so clear with this, as we'll see. And after takes, we get this setup. It looks fine, but this is still a bit stuck in here, these pieces. So after takes, and now here I think for a 1700 player, I know Jagalup's actually a really strong regular chess player, and he did find this amazing move, c6, and very nice intermediate to set it up. So takes, and now the bishop is able to take the lot. So I thought that was absolutely beautiful from low-rated players, but still, yeah, pretty cool game.
Yeah, especially a nice endgame, nice intermediate. The knight move was cool. The knight c6.
Cool. All right, well, over to your games. Let's see what you think.
Yeah. So the first game I chose was the game between yourself and Tugger. So yourself again against the unknown guy reborn, aka Tugger. So two very strong players. So I was really looking forward to this match, and I think I was not disappointed. This series was probably the best one I've seen so far. And so I think I'm just going to view this from White's perspective because that's how it looked it live. So nothing very surprising. Yourself opening up with E3 and the unknown game reborn with C5. So it's very standard position, nothing very surprising. But yourself goes for Bishop D3, and I thought it's a very nice move because it targets this H7 pawn and kind of more original than Bishop B5 or Bishop A6, which we see all the time. And yours, Tugger played also an even more surprising move, which is Queen to B6. So if you look into the analysis a bit more, in a bit more detail, it's actually a win for White. So as yourself played Bishop takes H7, Rook takes H7, and he played B4. But the right move was actually Queen H5 and taking on H5, playing E4, exchanging, and then after this series of exchange, maybe I can show this on the board. White is actually completely winning because although you have your bishop on the loose, it's targeting this square. But even if you try to deviate by using d5, you're also targeting this at the same time. And if you play all the right and accurate moves, I'm not going to go into the details, it's actually a win for White. So it was very interesting that on move 2, Black had already conceded a loss if the game had been played perfectly. But we were humans, and yourself played b4, and Queen takes b4, of course. And then yourself played Queen to f3, and now it's actually a mate for Black in I think 18 or 20. And I thought this game was very interesting because it shows that even between the best players in the world, in 5 moves, you already had like a mate in 20 for White and one for Black.
The reason is these guys, they're both Canadian, they're both friends. They probably played each other so much that they were really looking for some surprise openings. And even if they weren't sound, they knew that trying to work out difficult mates in a short time was probably not going to happen. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, none of us, a lot of strong players are watching, and nobody was like, "Oh, this is definitely a mate for White." Or, I mean, I found this by analysis. I saw the game live as well, and everything seemed just like fine to me. So yeah, Queen F3 was actually a mistake, and as you can see, they exchange on H2, on B1, and now you can see Black has the Rook and the Queen on the loose, and Black has to figure out some way to do cleaning. So yourself plays the right move, B5, Rook takes B5, Knight C6, Rook takes C5, and the position is still winning for Black here, but there is only one correct move, which is D5, which allows to continue the cleaning. I'm not going to go into all the variations because it's very tricky, and it's so tricky that even they didn't find it. So yourself, Tugger, sorry, is going to retreat his knight to B8, which is probably not the best move because after this series of exchanges, you can see that White has a much better position. Why is it so much better for White? Because you have an extra king, an extra bishop. Black is going to lose its best piece that is forced to sack itself. And so here yourself went for an interesting move, which is Rook H6, targeting the knight here, because if Black goes straight for Rook takes F2, you can take here, and the end game is going to be very easy for White because you will only have one knight and some pawns against king, knight, bishop, and some pawns. But he played G takes H6, and yourself went for D4, which is also a fine move, and just some exchanges. So knight F6, logical but important move here because you don't, after bishop, if the knight was not moved, he was still protecting this pawn, so it was necessary to do so. And this series of captures is not dangerous. Like there is no obvious mate for White here. So Tugger saw this, and yourself went for D5 and sacked the bishop. So probably sacking the bishop is not the best idea you want to do in an endgame, but you have to see the time on the clock, only 20 seconds. So, I mean, it's probably what I would have done too. You want to, playing with bishops is kind of hard in endgames because they target so many squares at the same time and it's hard to keep track of everything. So C4, logical move. You want to, push your pawns as fast as possible to promote into rooks or, any pieces that can make you win an endgame. And after a bit of shuffling here, this position is actually completely winning for white, as you can see. As I said before, ever since this knight to b8 move, the position is better for white. But Yursev played an interesting move here, knight to g5, and the idea is that the bishop, the knight has to take, and then you can just easily sack your king and pawn. And when I saw the game, I was like, wow, this move is just wonderful. But it's actually the move that that was losing for white. As you can see here, there is no mate. Although he played g4, Tugger played knight to c5. So what's interesting in this case is, like, if we think about it, the only way to win this game for black is to figure out a way to sack the knight and promote this pawn. And that's what he was able to do at the end. After a3, he played a very good move, knight to d3. Again, very good, because if you take the king, the pawn will have to advance.
Incredible, that move. That's, yeah. Jeez, that's really scary.
Beautiful move. And if, white doesn't move somewhere else, he can just sack the knight. So Yursev bought some time by playing king to e1, but still not good enough. You can't do anything against this. And then he goes back to d3. And remember what I said before, that the only way to win was to sack the knight and push the a pawn? Well, that's what he was able to do. And he just sacked the knight, and Yursev presented in this position because there is nothing you can do.
Yeah, rook promoted, so it's over. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very skillful endgame from just Tugger's just got amazing tactical nous. That's really impressive.
Yeah, really, it was incredible, because I mean, everyone in the chat was saying, wow, this is going to be easier for white, and yet I think any one of us would have lost this game, but Tugger was able to turn it around. I mean, it was incredible. And I think I would invite anybody to watch all the games they played, because there was also some interesting innovation against the e3, b6 that Yursev plays as black, is that Tugger went for bishop to e2, and there were some interesting games in new positions, unknown positions. So it was very interesting series.
For sure. Yeah, I watched them all as well. It was great.
Yeah. So moving on to the second game, this one was between kX and Remekat. I thought this game was interesting too, because there was a bit of innovation as well. But this game was less chaotic with like crazy moves on every side. It was more just like a Remekat showing how a rigorous and precise play can get the best out of your opponent, no matter how good he is. So another surprise here was kX playing e3. He usually goes
extremely surprising.
Because I mean, against Remekat, he just knows so much theory. His play is just so accurate that, even with c4, no matter how good you are playing c4, it's going to be very hard. So I think kX was right to prep both e3 and c4. And this time he went for e3. So surprising move, but the other move by black is not so surprising. c5 by Remekat, his, pet's defense. And here kX went for queen h5, and I thought this move was very interesting because it's not really like a standard theory move, and yet the queen here is kind of annoying because it targets three pawns at the same time. You can take on c5, create some chaos. You can get rid of the f pawn. You can get rid of this and force the rook to recapture and get rid of one rook early on in the game. So a lot of interesting options. I mean, if I was playing black, I would be, oh my god, this is a good move. What do I do? I mean, not very intuitive, but Remekat, of course, didn't panic and went for a5. And I think this move a5 is very interesting because it attacks the queen side and thinks that, with something like queen b6 here, and if you can get rid of the b pawn, you can just like push the a pawn here. It also allows to have some space for your rook, some space for the knight here, like this. And, it's actually a move that's not intuitive, but very interesting as well, and very strong, no matter how weird it can seem. kX went for queen takes h7, rook takes h7. And another interesting move by kX here is this bishop to c4 move, because it actually targets the f pawn, and it's very good, to get rid of this f pawn, because as you can see here, white can now play some moves like e4. He can play like e4, and there is no f pawn to stop this, because you know, then you will probably have the queen on the loose, the bishop on the loose, I mean. And what was good about a5, I said before, it leaves some space for the rook, so that's what America does, playing rook a6. Kex goes for g4, so an interesting move because it pins the d pawn, and now white can push e4 quite easily, because if he plays d4, I mean, yeah, there's a queen taking, but there's also the bishop, so very good move. And I think Remeka just wanted to take control of the h file, so he went for knight h6. And again, what was interesting about having this rook here is that you can just take here, but Kex didn't want to leave him the h file, so of course knight h3 takes. And now Kex played this strange move c3. I think it was not the strongest choice. I mean, the idea is that if there is an attack sooner or later on the b pawn here, the b2 pawn, you can take with the bishop, and the bishop will be blocked by this c pawn, and you won't have like any bishop becoming a loose cannon. But as you can see later, this move is going to hurt him, and this is where you see how Remeka, just by like a small inaccuracy like this, can make you miserable. So exchanging the rook against the pawn, queen to b6. So as I said before, the queen is going to be very dangerous, working in combination with the c and the a pawn. And Kex goes for e5, the move we talked about earlier, because if you sack the d pawn, the bishop is trapped. And that was actually the mistake he made. As you can see, these three pieces here will work into a deadly combination against Kex. And after the exchange, can you find the right move? Remeka found it. Very interesting a4 move. The thing is that you are targeting both the queen and the bishop here, and there is nothing really white can do, sorry. And white goes for a3, but that's not going to be enough, because Remeka is going to play another amazing move, knight to a6. And if the knight sacks here, takes, the bishop is on the loose and the rook is on the loose. So there's just too much pressure going on for white. And despite his good game, Kex, there's nothing that will be able to do. So he goes for c4, but there is just nothing that he can do. Remeka is going to sack his knight, and then it's just like a nice and easy cleaning for black. And as you can see, he doesn't miss anything, and this is a win for black.
That was such a nice cramp of space that Remeka did there. I mean, you can kind of see he's an FM at chess, so he understands this principle of space, and he's just absolutely squashed Kex into the corner there. That's, yeah, wow, pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was just wonderful, because especially this a5 move at the beginning or anything, you can see how they come in handy later on. And this attack with like the c5, the a5, and the queen on b6 was just too much, very hard to stop. So it was very interesting how he was able to put so much pressure, and just was not that like not too much. So not too much crazy moves like the game before, but just a series of just rigorous and accurate moves was able to give him the win.
Yeah, so that's going to be it for this round. We're about halfway through the World Champs, so stay tuned. We're going to be back hopefully in a few weeks with part 2. So thank you, Sarang, and thanks very much, Paulo, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was nice to show the games and discuss the games. And I think it's kind of cool that we are able to show these games to the world, that we don't have enough time to watch every single game. So it's really cool to shed some light on some incredible games.
Absolutely. Cool. And thanks very much to everyone else for watching. So see you next time.